Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. It's 4 o'clock and we want to start. It's the last session of the day, so thank you all for being here and bring the energy and interest to be here for this last session. We have six very good papers here this afternoon, and I will moderate for you for the first 15 minutes, for the first 20 minutes, and then my colleague, Dr. Saloshni Pillay from South Africa, will take over the moderation. We're swapping it and sharing it in that sort of way. We also will change the sequence of papers slightly. We will start with the paper, my paper, mine and Lisa's paper, which is your second last on your list, and then we go from the top with Mr. Laksa, Ms. Mora, and so we go on. In terms of introducing the papers, I think they all focus on professional development and competency development in one form or the other. If I can just distinguish it slightly and say that degrees in student affairs are, of course, academic degrees, which are not professional development. Academic degrees are exactly that. How can I say that? Academic degrees. But professional development is something that you prop on top of a functional professional. So we have in this room many, many functional, very high functional professionals, all of you are, with many years of experience and so forth. But a professional development opportunity is really propped on top of that. And it borrows a lot from lifelong learning principles. Lifelong learning principles, and it focuses on a much shorter, more intense way of training. So I just thought I'd distinguish and I clarify that right in the beginning so that all the speakers can somewhat locate themselves on that landscape. I'm Birgit Schreiber. I didn't say that. I'm Birgit Schreiber. I'm, since this morning, president of Iasas, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited about that. I'll have a few words about that tomorrow morning, just before the keynote. Another thing I want to share with you, we will have 3 awards tomorrow night at the gala event. 3 well, shall I say outstanding, not best papers. We struggled a bit with the idea of a best paper. Nothing, papers are good papers, very good papers in different categories. So we weren't sure about the best. But we were sure that some papers are outstanding. So we will have outstanding research paper award tomorrow. We will have an outstanding practice paper. And we will have an outstanding social justice paper for tomorrow night. And to do that, and to help us do that, we will have some QR codes at the end of the session displayed on the screen, and you will just take it with your phone and then just grade them. And it'll be a fairly straightforward process with QR codes. The young people in the audience are nodding, and the old ones are going, So you're familiar with it? You open your camera, okay, of course, yeah. Good, so I want to start, thanks. So I want to start, I'm going to go to this side, and I think I'm allowed to go to this side. Huh? Yeah, we're starting, it's okay. So you can see this. I'm going to start very quickly because we've got 20 minutes per paper, so we're going to go very quickly. We're going to present a paper. It's Lisa Bardil Mascarotola here with me. She's, of course, the General Secretary General for Iasas and professor at Purdue Global University, and myself. We did a needs analysis of the Iasas members' needs for professional development, and we're presenting this needs analysis to you, and then the program we designed based on that. The needs analysis, Lisa will talk to the details of that, was done about 3 years ago already, and you will see the results of that. So quickly, we're going to look at training and development needs and the emerging themes, the themes that came from that survey, which was really interesting. The model we used for developing a training and development model was we first did the needs assessment, and I must declare that our needs assessment, of course, comes from the lens that Lisa and I hold. We are 2 middle-aged white women, and it comes, and I do need to say that because it comes with all its burdens and privileges. But it's with all its burdens, and so our lens is limited by that. So our needs assessment, of course, comes with that. So our needs assessment, we compared it to other needs assessments in order to try be inclusive of various questions. But I just want to declare our lens and our limitations in terms of that. So we did a training needs analysis. We then defined the training objectives. From it, we extracted the themes. What are the objectives of any training program that we would design? We then designed the program. We're going to conduct the training program at the end of this year, and then we shall evaluate. In the stage 2, when we defined the training, how we want this training to look like, we consulted experts, we had expert meetings, we had a reference group that gave us feedback on our design. We ran the program past our board members, and we got feedback. And one of the advantages, of course, of Iasas is that our board members are as many board members as we have. That's how many nationalities we have, and as many different identities. And so we have an extremely high diversity amongst our board members. And so that lens was brought onto the needs assessment and onto the design of the program. Yeah, just to say that. We compared it and matched it to various training programs across the world, and you're familiar with a lot of very, very good training programs are done in North America. A lot of them are done in Europe, of course, and again, you can see the dots all around the world. Most of them are masters in academic training programs. So just to say again, the difference between an academic training program and a professional development program, that the Europeans speak about micro-credentialing and so forth, and there's different frameworks that speak about it differently. We mapped some competencies, again, some of the literature mainly coming again from the United States. The United States has a lot of competencies in student affairs, then Canada, UK, and so forth, and you can see the list here. What was important in terms of our competencies is that our focus in the training program we've developed is not just about a competency and skill in the student affairs professional for programming with students. It's about a much broader lens on thinking, how do I impact the context within which our students live and learn? So it's about a much broader lens about how do I bring my weight, how do I bring my efforts, how do I bring my thrust to bear on the context of living and learning for our students. So it's a big advocacy component in it. There's a component of self-development and so forth. And you can take us through the survey.
Thank you, Birgit. Okay, just a little bit more on my lens. I also have worked in student affairs and higher education for about 30 years in the U.S. and then 5 years in the United Arab Emirates. So some of my lens during that time, and like Birgit said, a little bit of that. So anyway, our survey was done in 2021, and we had about 221 members participate. Obviously, it was during also kind of the COVID, so we were on hold and trying to decide what to do with this. So you'll see a little bit. And Snowball is the sampling method that we use a lot in some of our surveys and some of the things we do, and that's just asking you to then send it to others to get their feedback. So that's kind of how we arrange this. So these are just some of the things I'm going to talk about. These were the clusters that we explored just to find out more about what our members want in the International Association for Student Affairs and Student Services. So related to demographics, what we heard is, if you could see who we heard from the most, the region we're in right now, Asia. So, and interesting enough, we would also hear on emails too, like, what do you, we're kind of a young association, what else could we do? They wanting more. So that was why we wanted to do this too. We wanted to know the assessment. We wanted to know the needs. So that was very important because we would hear from people, we want more. This is the highest level of education of some of the folks. I don't want to read it to you, so you could see it, okay? Is everyone okay? So if you look here, most had a master's degree. Some of this, now this question was at one point, we were thinking of looking at a university, working with a university. This really doesn't come into play as much right now because we wanted to know if we did connect with the university. Like Birgit said, though, we kind of went away from this model after talking with the board and so forth. We went away from offering a master's degree. We looked at, but we were curious, and so we kept this on because we did have a partnership possibly with an American university that was interested. So this was about, well, what is it that you would want for professional development, like Birgit kind of labeled. And here we saw, which I think is interesting, this idea of mini courses, online lectures, online interactive workshops came out, and self-paced kind of modules. So those are the things that came out of the feedback we received. Here we see 100% online. I mean, that was very high and that kind of also swayed us away from maybe not working with the university in some ways too as we started thinking about this. But anyway, that gives you the idea here, or hybrid. Some of the themes and topics. This is very hard to read, but we asked, what would you be interested? There's a lot here, so I'll just look at this, right? I can't even read that one anymore. I had to go back to the data in Qualtrics to find it. But these are some of the high topics of interest that came out. Internationalization, global education. That was one of the top, which we were proud, obviously, being in part of Iasas. This is our mission. So that was why it seemed natural that our members would want something around this topic. So that came out, and these are some others: student research, leadership, management, and human resources, crisis management, conceptualization of programs for students. Like Birgit said, more of the larger picture. What are we accomplishing by these actual programs that we're doing? What is the larger context of why that matters? Advising, counseling, helping skills, student leadership, and DEI, or DEIB as we're hearing it now. Diversity, equality, inclusion, and belonging. Birgit, you want to take it from here? So that's a little bit about our needs analysis.
So it's our second last slide. So this is the cluster of themes that of how we clustered it. The training program will focus a lot on the context and global, local higher education issues. And maybe here to say that the context of higher education and student affairs related to higher education is very different across the world. It's very rare, or not, that's not true, it's not very rare, but it's one version to have student affairs attached to an institution. That's really just one model amongst many. We know that we have models where one student affairs office or division or agency or association will service a terrain, a region, a province, and it might serve students who are going to colleges, community colleges, universities, research institutions, and any adult training program, and will service these sorts of students. Some student affairs divisions are, like I'm looking at my German colleague here, in the German model, it's very much embedded into the fabric of society. So it's a caring society which provides care to disability, it provides funding for those who need it, and it provides support. And then the student affairs divisions or offices would do something unique for the students and tweak it slightly. So the idea that student affairs is linked to one university and services these university students, be that a Weber State University, for instance, or a one university, for instance, is not the common model across the world. And so we will look at many models and how these models work. And it's so important to know how the models work across the world, because you learn so much about how to improve your model. So that's some of it. Just for the global local issue in higher education, some of the issues we will look at is trying to think about, the function of higher education for the development of a country. And some of the leadership or the management issue then links into kind of the funding. Where does fundamentally that money come from, and who does this higher education institution serve? Is it a private good, empowering an individual to become successful and rich, or is it a public good and the public has some opinion on what is taught? Graduate attributes, citizenship, social justice. These are the issues that the public is interested in. And so what different models do we have in the world? How is it funded? And what then does that mean for our work in student affairs? The next cluster is about leadership and personal development. And that came out quite nicely from people saying, I lead and manage some of my staff, be that 5 people, be that 20, be that 100, or be that in an association, or be that my student groups or whatever. How do I manage? What is my best management? What is my management preference? What is my management style fluidity? And how do I improve my fluidity? Because of course that's your best leader, somebody who's got a fluid style and can apply and use skills and tools needed in the situation. So we're doing a lot of personal development on how to manage yourself in the situation with colleagues, peers, and students. Management, part of the clusters is also management. Here we're looking at finances, we're looking at HR, we're looking at administration and just management issues in higher education. And then a lot on student affairs theory, and practice, and what that means in our context, how we use what kind of practice and what kind of theory is relevant to us, and what sense do we make of it. And then the overarching theme is scholarship. We're hoping that a lot of writing comes out of these programs, and we look at scholarship and how we can contribute as a program to the developing scholarship in the regions. There you are, that's the content for the program. We've got higher education context, overview and purpose, leadership, I've just gone over this now, theory and practice, digitalization of the curriculum and the co-curriculum. That came through very, very strongly, as well as gender and gender rights and social justice. And again, we've then put in the internationalization and SDGs. And we heard this morning how important these are. And back to the design of the program, I just wanted to remind you of that model that we're now at stage 4, where we're conducting the training towards the end of the year. And we've had very exciting people. We've really got a very exciting and very diverse group of people applying, which will make this program so rich and the experience of it very rich. The evaluation will come next year, and we hope that we can publish from that and get an evaluation. I think I've gone over this one. So the program itself, as you see, I said that we have high diversity of participants. We have global faculty, and that also makes a huge difference, that the people teaching the program and facilitating the program will come with very different footprints, with very different experiences from all around the world. And we like putting the balance forward. I hope we get that balance right, Lisa. So we keep saying we're getting balance of leadership and management, and we hope we get that balance right. Of course, people will have to take from the program what it means for them. So let's see if there's some questions and answers. And here you are. I think this is the end. Thank you very much. Saloshni, can I give this to you?
Can we take questions, comments? All understood, all good? Because we may need to relieve Birgit and... oh, you'll be here. Thank you, Birgit. So we'll move on to our second presentation, and we're just going to follow the order now, right? So we allowed Birgit to go up first. We go to James Batola Laksa from the Philippines.
Yes, it's here. Good afternoon, everyone. I am James Laksa from De La Salle University, Manila, Philippines. I'll be sharing with everyone this paper on navigating a Catholic university's identity within the global call for inclusion and diversity. I tried to answer one of the objectives of this conference, which is on promoting inclusion and diversity. My method will be a historical critical analysis and reflection on specific documents, Catholic documents, which are relevant to my research. My main objective is to explore ways to promote inclusion and diversity while maintaining the Catholic identity. Let me begin with a story. I think every June, all over the world, there is what we call the Pride Month. In the Philippines, this is something new, and we observe it in the university. We lighted the rainbow color right at the facade of the university. It was a beautiful event of a declaration of inclusion and diversity within the university. It was both student-led and administration-led, faculty-led, meaning we were all into it, but the alumni were not. The former students were not. The president was receiving messages of why did you do that? Where is our Catholic identity? They felt it was very personal. The president, who is of course a brother, a Catholic religious brother, Brother Bernie, no, keep it there. No, he stood for that, for the position of what we call inclusion at the time. So it became an annual event right now. From that experience, not only from the alumni, the feedback was not only coming from the alumni, it was also from the faculty members who were also alumni, who were formed years before. So Lisa, they were mentioning middle age. Yeah, I mean the middle age, of course, I think they were coming from a different period. Which brings me now to the next. A Catholic university brings with it another factor which is not present in, should we say, a regular university. This is the religious aspect. I'm not sure if how many will be coming from a religious-based university or faith-based university, but I do come from that. So let me just show you these three kind of historical transitions that we are experiencing, from religious to secular to post-secular. Just a quick definition. No? Religious, it means that everything is centered on the faith, that much of the orders or the management was coming from church leaders. Secular is extreme, meaning there is no relation at all with faith leaders. It's all coming from non-religious based administrators or faculty, or even in the decision making. They are not faith-based, but rather on, we might say, human-based or humanistic-based decisions. But what is post-secular? The post-secular is very relevant in my research because that's the lens I would like to invite you to join me in looking at the changes that has been happening in the life of a Catholic university like where I come from. The post-secular lens is, of course, a borrowed term. It really belongs to the church. It really belongs to the, should I say, the Christian world, the Catholic Church. Secular means worldly. In fact, it has very negative connotations in the past. But right now, it's just secular, meaning it's not religious. Okay. But what is post-secular exactly? Post-secular really is a new take on the reality of this world, wherein, yes, it is not based on church doctrines or dogma, but it still recognizes the divine presence. I am taking the models of Berger and Casanova in this, this lens. I'm taking it from Casanova and Berger. Essentially, it means to reflect on the meaning of life without having to refer to religion. The secularization process, according to Berger in the beginning, he was predicting that in the 1960s that religion would completely be toppled or disappear. People will just exist without God or without any desire to know what is beyond life. He was definitely mistaken, because as revealed by other researchers within this area of the sociology of religion, they realized that people became more religious. Not in the sense of attending masses or attending religious festivities, but being more religious deeply within. They tend to recognize the divine being, but without calling it names or not even attending formal religious gatherings, but they recognize themselves as spiritual. Okay. And another important point is that secularization did not only happen in cultures, as I was mentioning. It happened in the hearts of men. Okay? People started to reflect on the meaning of life without having to refer to religion. in the history of the Catholic Church, 1960s or 1965 to be precise, was something very important, because this is the moment when the Catholic Church moved or recognized that the world is now changing. So they gathered all the world leaders or the cardinals and started reflecting on the life of the church in the modern world. This document, Gaudium et Spes, came out of this context. They recognized or affirmed the plurality of cultures and the different ways of practicing religion. They recognize that the church cannot anymore move within or on its own. It has to recognize the different, recognize modernity, to be precise, that its decision cannot just be based on their own teachings, their dogma, their doctrines, but rather on the advancement of sciences and culture. Take note, this is 1965. Did it change? No. Because, again, the recipients of that document had different ways of interpreting it. In fact, it largely was not practiced, or was not, at least from my own assessment, Vatican II did not prosper because the popes that were elected kept Vatican I, or still the religious aspect, not the post-secular aspect. 1990, this document specifically addressed Catholic higher educations or institutes all over the world, including our university. It asked us to discern and evaluate both the aspirations and contradictions of modern culture. It was really echoing the 1965 document again. Okay, 1990, if you're familiar with Pope John Paul II, he was the Pope during this time. And yet, he is known as the one who prevented Vatican II from progressing to what it should have been. So it encouraged dialogue between Christian thought and modern sciences. Of course, all of this was on paper. But many Catholic universities did prosper. Just to be fair, they did prosper. Yesterday, we visited Daegu Catholic University. I was so glad the way they frame student affairs. Faith in the student affairs was part of the what they call Department of Humanities. Okay. In my university where I come from, I'm the director of the Lasallian Pastoral Office, or what many of you would know as the Campus Ministry Office. It's really an office that is properly named, meaning the faith traditions or faith practices are practiced or are observed and are ensured that they are practiced within the university. But for Daegu Catholic University, they were just up front there. They did not put anything that is specifically Catholic. It was the Department of Humanities. So we kind of guessed, we didn't ask specific questions, we kind of guessed that, okay, that's where we are. Because precisely, in the post-secular lens, you look at the faith from the humanistic sense. Let's see 2013 document. This time, this is the period of Pope Francis. I am sure you will know him, even if you are not Catholic. He's the current Pope right now. He said, you cannot anymore be attached to the past. You must respond to new questions about life and the world with new and better answers. It's really him telling leaders, faculty, and everyone else who claim to be Catholic. Let me close this discussion with this one of the professors from Louvain, Catholic University. Okay, his reflections on secularism. He's actually inviting faculty members within Catholic University how to look at secularism. You have to embrace it with a critical, constructive conversation. because you will realize a lot of unexpected opportunities in discovering God's presence when you actually allow yourself to be open. Live and Bove operates on the idea that God continues to reveal Himself even in situations when the Christian narrative and the secular narratives have locked themselves from within. What are my conclusions? First, these conclusions, because when I was doing this paper, I was thinking of faculty members who have approached me several times, not only once, but several times, about the problems of inclusion and diversity in the university. How can we be Catholic? So, this is my conclusion. Number one, let us be comfortable with tension. The world is not anymore black and white. Okay, this is coming from the Catholic perspective, where that was we were so comfortable with that. But right now, let's be comfortable with tension. Next, let's focus on interiority and introspection. Meaning, let's allow our students to deeply reflect on what is happening within themselves. To allow them that opportunity to constantly examine their decisions, their experiences, their insights, their thoughts. Fourth, an important aspect of Catholicism, why it survived for more than 2,000 years, it's its ability to adapt. I'm inviting you, talking to our own faculty, to adapt. Not to give up, but to adapt. Your identity will still be there. Why? Because in my fourth recommendation, the gospel of Jesus Christ is only about love and compassion and no other else. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, James. Colleagues, any questions, comments? No, we good. Thank you again, James. So we're moving on to our next presenter. It's my pleasure to call upon my colleague, Hirmachetse. She's tried to teach me how to say it so many times. I got it right, eh? Yes, good. Thank you. From South Africa, and she's now going to present to you.
Good afternoon. Okay, yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. I'm going to be presenting about the World Cafe, which is a methodology, a decolonized methodology, and I'm speaking from the side of an academic. I am not in student affairs, and some of the conversations would be a bit difficult, challenging. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that we, as a team, when I say we, the three of us, you'll see Professor Lucia and Dr. Wilson Fadiji, we are not saying that we don't acknowledge that student affairs is a challenging job. It's hectic. I don't know how you do it. So my topic is creating dialogue and collaboration in student affairs using World Cafes, insights from the research project, Violence and Wellbeing, in the context of the South African student movement. What is actually the purpose of this? The purpose is to promote the use of World Cafe method as promoting a safe and brave space for discussing student concerns within the university. We know, we'll talk more about the university, but we know we are from universities. What are these brave spaces? Brave spaces are learning environments within which the truth is sought. So we have always heard about safe spaces. But safe spaces also promote what? Trust and mutual support. Brave spaces are an addition into the safe spaces because they encourage what? Controversy. However, there needs to be accountability, there needs to be civility and respect. And we can never run away from those three values. We did this World Cafe in response to the Fees Must Fall. In South Africa in 2014, 2015, there was a huge student movement, and I believe that you might have heard about it, yes. Yes, and so 2015, 2016, the rise of fallism at South African universities, only public universities, not private universities. And of course, we know that, there should be protests at universities. There ought to be protests because we are teaching students to be critical thinkers. If they are not protests, then it means that we are, I don't know what kind of world we want. And also, young people, they give a fresh perspective. They have not had touch with the reality. They don't look back to something so that they relate to the world. Whatever they meet now, they have new contact. So that's why we do have this protest. But ours in South Africa are different because they have a tinge of violence. The history that we have, yes. And also, what were the challenges? Of course, the challenges with the protests, they disrupted the academic year. And in our, basically the academic year had to be transfigured. Students had to write in community halls, at churches. So there were different, venues. Some exams, our final year-end exams are scheduled November, early December. They were moved to January. At times there were lots of uncertainties. But also, we cannot run away from the fact that there will be mental health issues when we are talking about protest, particularly when we're relating them with violence. Then we decided, okay, because we are doing this violence and well-being study, let's also infuse the World Cafe as part of that. We cannot just be looking at violence without actually coming up with ways on what's next, what should we be doing about this whole thing. So the World Cafe is basically a PRA method that was founded by Juanita Brown and David Iasas. They are Mexicans, and it takes the cafe setting. Yes, so it's inclusive. We know how we feel when we are meeting our friends at a cafe. It's intimate. We are with people that we like and we love, and there's belonging. But here the World Cafe is inclusive, dialogical, it's solution-driven, research method that promotes social change through mutual understanding and learning. I like the second definition by De la Mata. It's a process of human, warm, and meaningful conversation of a group to discuss questions, generate innovative and creative ideas, agreements, and plans of action. In a welcoming and friendly space, we all need those welcoming and friendly spaces, because when spaces are welcoming and friendly, we are able to express ourselves. So basically, this is the setting, World Cafe setting. Of course, you need to have a table. This is a table, cafe table, and normally cafes, the setting, there's a table, tablecloth, a flower, in the middle, all of those little things, they create the atmosphere. And depending on your setting, so you can even have your drinks, music. So it basically, we mimic the Well Cafe. And the best thing about the Well Cafe is that it's not limited to the number of people, participants. It can take as many participants as possible. So, however, each table needs to have what we call a table host. So a table host is a person who would be, isn't it that there are different tables? Each and every table would have a table host. So a table host would be a person who remains when other people are going through these tables and having conversations. So that's why participants move for 3 successive rounds, each lasting 20 minutes, but the host task is to convey the discussion to new participants. And the same or different question can be asked. And group conversation, they start with basically identifying patterns, common patterns, collective knowledge, and possible plan of action. So there's in a circle there, that is a process. Basically, that is driven by the principles. So you set the context, a hospitable space, as I said, about the warm environment, the music, the tablecloth, all of those, and you explore a question that matter. A question that matter is called also a traveling question, a question that can allow and will allow the participants to discuss deeply. So it's an insightful question, and we'll talk about our question, and then we'll encourage contributions. And remember, we said that the people are going from one table to another, so that's where contributions would be encouraged, and we connect the diverse perspectives. So that's when we are bringing the information together, and then we listen to each other, and then we share the collective discoveries. But what are the benefits? It co-creates knowledge, it respects the voice of the participants, it fosters dialogue, and also it enhances mutual and reflective listening. So the Well Cafe is a similar, but a bit, it's similar, of course, not the same. It's similar to the focus group discussions in that the atmosphere is rather informal. We spoke about having coffee, and the data generated as data generation involves hosts instead of moderation, because in a group there's a leader. In group focus group work, group discussions, there's a leader who is always there. And also the depth is different, diversity, because all of the people would have participated and different insights would be generated. The sizes are varied. Focus groups, I cannot do it with more than 15 people. It becomes, it doesn't really work with more than 15 people. However, the Well Cafe, because there are small groups of people, then it can work. And also synchronicity. Focus group discussions, I can have as many as I want to have. However, they are asynchronous because I have to do one after the other, whereas the Well Cafe is quick. And so why the Well Cafe? Why did we do the Well Cafe? Because universities, as I said, universities are hierarchical. Yes, they are. Yeah. Universities, their history is rooted in religion, and yes, let me not talk about subjects that I don't know. Yes, but we know that, yes, from religion, yeah. And then, of course, within universities, although universities, they have spaces or student representation in the higher echelons, their voices are marginalized. You have 2 students against 15 academics, and it doesn't really work. But also the Folist movement showed that there were fractures within the university relations, and The Well Cafe also promotes student authority, dialogue, and enhances collaboration. So how did we do it for our project? What we did was that we had 5 university campuses. And these are campuses that are not popular. They are not in the media. They are the marginalized campuses, and I'm from one of those, the University of Venda. So 35 student activists and staff were from 3 campuses. Those were the people that only participated in the Well Cafe. Excuse me. So there were academics, student affairs and services personnel, and administrators. All of them were given information booklets during the participation phase. So this is about permissions. But remember, I spoke about the questions, that traveling question. So we had 2 traveling questions. So what are the roles that the SSA can play into preventing violence, and also what is it that they can do post-violence? So how did we implement it? Of course, we had an opening. We welcomed the students, the student activists, and the invited staff, and gave them a brief. What are we going to be talking about? The anchor is those 2 questions that I spoke about. And we had what we call a photo voice exhibition. So the first 3 days that when we were at the campuses, we asked students the question about how do they describe violence as a bystander or an perpetrator or an instigator. So they took photos of those depictions of violence and had narratives. And on the 4th day, we invited academics, student affairs, and whoever administrators to come and view those photos. From each campus, we did that. So that's why now they interacted with the exhibition first before we spoke about what is it that student affairs can do, because now they were aware of how the students depicted violence and how the students cope with the violence that they experienced. And also we engagement discussing to elicit questions, and we formed connections. We identified the golden thread, the theme amongst all of these suggestions that we have been given. And lastly, we had the debriefing and closure, which was the feedback process. For us, what didn't necessarily work was that we didn't get enough number of students. So we didn't get enough number of students, and so we didn't have the different tables. So it was just one setting. So the Well Cafe, it acknowledged what? Vulnerability, because that is a statement from SAS staff that 20 to 50 students surrounded the car and they threatened us with bricks. You see? Yes. Oh, I have one. No, I'll be finished. And then also, it promoted dialogue in that, you see, conversations like this from an SAS staff. Diverse perspectives, also reflective for both parties. A student saying that we have normalized violence, but an SAS activist saying that we have not done enough. Another student saying, I am sorry, I have nothing against you, mother. You see? So that civility, that respect, but also controversy. In conclusion, I would say that the Well Cafe is proposed as a suitable, innovative method to create safe and brave spaces for dialogue and collaboration between student leaders, student affairs practitioners, and other members of the university, while also having the potential to act as a method to create knowledge in student affairs. And I hope that you are going to implement it as part of your training programs. I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chemo. I also have seen, also there's a lot of documents. Brett and I and Birgit, we work a lot with Thierry. So thank you for that. And there's some great books on that they've done too around this whole well-being. So I had the opportunity for him to send them to me. So thank you, Chemo. I'm going to also introduce Salashini Pillai. And I just wanted to say we also grabbed her to help be a moderator, but she didn't want to introduce herself, so I said, I'll introduce you. But anyway, she's also a friend of Iasas. I think she's been at every global summit. You were at the first global summit, right, Salashini? And were you?
I started in Rome.
Oh, you started in Rome. Okay. Number 2.
No, he got it right. He got it right. Okay. But it's not showing.
Not up there. He's going to do it.
Okay.
He's going to try to do it. So maybe you can.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I think in the interest of time, I'll just start. You're probably not seeing the slides just now, but I'm from University of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa, and I'm going to share with you an intervention that I automated during the COVID period. And of course, it's work in progress. It's called the SWOT solution, SWOT standing for Student Wellness and Academic Transformation. So I'm just going to go back a bit. Oop. Okay, I'm going to share with you a little bit on the objectives of SWOT, the key functionalities, the automated system, and a short video that depicts the aspects of the SWOT solution in action. Before I get to that, I think it's important to very briefly contextualize why SWOT. SWOT is a holistic intervention program that focuses on student wellness for student success. And our assumption in engaging in this research project was that enhanced student engagement supports student experience, which enhances student success. Hence this intervention that we developed. And I will share with you some of the key functionalities of this strategy. We know that universities are not just tracking student performance by virtue of marks, but understanding student success in the context of all of the non-academic outside the classroom experiences that impact student wellness. So in 2020, with the sudden closure of universities due to COVID, our students were accessing learning materials from remote places. This transition compelled us, and we were in student support services, compelled us to review the effectiveness of our strategies to support students. And we needed to look at how do we enhance student engagement. So COVID didn't just test our resilience, it also compelled us to be adept at adapting and being creative. Hence, we came up with a strategy to transform the support arrangement. We adopted the blended teaching and learning, and at the same time, we adopted the blended student support. The key objective, as I said, was to promote students' engagement with student support services, to promote sustainable academic success and holistic student wellness during the first academic year. The first year, as we know, is known as the make or break year. It's a year in which there's the heightened premature dropout due to many factors, career confusion being one of them, but many other non-academic factors impact student success in the first year. The SWOT solution research project is informed by theory called connectivism. It's a relatively new learning theory for the digital age, which embraces and recognizes the importance of technology in learning and student engagement, where constant connectedness allows a student to make choices about their learning. Connectivists afford students the ability to learn through connections, with networks where knowledge is available and distributed across networks, such as Google, YouTube, and social network collaboration tools. Hence, it's called connected learning. Now, we know our students are all very good at this kind of stuff. The aim of the SWOT program is to offer a coordinated, comprehensive undergraduate support program where role players have clear roles and responsibilities and accountability, and they work in an integrated manner to ensure that the equity of access translates to equity of outcome in minimum time. SWOT actually compels collaboration. It's arranged in such a way you have no choice but to work with the academic or with the mentor or with student affairs or campus health. So you're forced to work together. The collaboration actually allows for a cross-functional dialogue between support services and academics. It creates an interrelatedness between the inside the classroom and the outside the classroom. And it also makes the learning experience or the student's university experience a lot more seamless. So this is what it looks like in action, and this is all of the pillars or components or aspects of the SWOT solution. We've been working on this for many years. It follows a process of engagement from entry into the university. If you look at the blue column, AOI, academic orientation and integration, which enhances the transition into university and integration into the college. It starts at that point when the student enters. It's all about the onboarding and transitioning into the university environment. And at this point, the academic monitoring and support team meets the students to onboard them and supports their transition into the lecture room space. Academic support and mentoring are initiated at this point and continue through the year. And as the different aspects of the SWOT solution are in play, you have the first year experience program for the first years entering, academic support where they learn critical academic skills for entering the university environment. Support in the living and learning environment, this is after hours support. And then in March, we introduced the wellness assessment, which forms a part of the SWOT solution. The wellness assessment allows us to profile students in terms of the levels of risk within the wellness domains, to develop a wellness profile for every student so that there's targeted intervention based on whatever the profile is. So if the profile is higher on psychosocial, there's obviously a need for referral to that unit within student services that focus on psychosocial. If it's health, physical, biological, then you're referring to that particular unit. So the system allows you to profile and refer. The intervention takes place as a hybrid method, so it could be virtual interventions or face-to-face interventions. And of course, with the wellness profile, you are able to track your student from entry to graduation. You keep that profile, you work with that profile, you update the profile as the student progresses. But the SWOT interventions allows us to have excellent and rich data on students for their time at university. So that is the aspect on the left-hand side that has now become automated as the SWOT solution. The tool we use consists of 192 questions because they're in different domains, but into the 7 wellness domains. It's a student-centered arrangement, and it allows us to red flag questions ranked as priorities 1 to 4. The purpose of having flagged questions is to be able to have a service level agreement that tells you if it's a priority 1, a student that's perhaps suicidal, it's priority 1, it has a service level agreement, a turnaround time in which you need to intervene. A priority 4 is someone that says, I'm all good and well, and we just send them out details to contact us should they need to. So based on what the presentations are, we have a service level agreement. This is the evolution of SWOT. So I developed SWOT in 2005. We've come a long way from paper-based work. In 2005, when we were being audited for student failure in the midst of a merger, we just come through the elections, and we're now a democratic government, and there was a merge of historically advantaged and historically disadvantaged institutions, and much was happening then with students from the former disadvantaged institutions having a higher failure rate. So there was an audit. And the findings were that you actually needed to focus more on holistic interventions as opposed to tracking student marks. So what I implemented from 2005 to 2009 was actually a paper-based arrangement that looked at student wellness, and it had name changes from at risk, which was actually, now when you look back, you wonder, how did we do that? We went to student success, and some people, oh, that's not for us because we are not the successful students. And then we moved it in 2012 to student wellness and academic transformation, because whatever the change was, it had to transform in the classroom. We moved to Lime Survey, then SharePoint, Google Docs, and of course during COVID, with everybody using technology, we came across the OnBase program platform. That's now what we use to implement, to offer this automation. So as of 2022, we have the automated SWOT. It went through several iterations over the years. And what we found, there was large amounts of data to work with over the years. It was onerous, absolutely tedious, but absolutely valuable data. And hence, we find that this solution provides us with excellent recording and reporting. So why the need for automation? Besides the need to adopt a hybrid approach to student support, post-COVID automation allowed for innovation by applying emerging technologies in a changing environment. And we had to be as brave as the academics. Start developing resilience and preparedness during unforeseen circumstances. This system allows us to collaborate, integrate, be inclusive, and actually bring on board all role players. It also expands and extends holistic support to our students, because you have the option wherever you are to complete your wellness assessment or to access your intervention. Some of the key assumptions of the automation is that a technology-enhanced model will improve student engagement. It will offer a ripple effect of enhancing communication, wellness and academic success, and will allow for prompt tracking of wellness and academic progress. More importantly, the metrics will tell us whether we can expand and upscale university-wide. And because I piloted in 2022, I'm ready for university-wide expansion next year. So the design of SWOT, as I said, went through several discussions to understand the as-is and then move to the to-be. We collaborated with external service providers. We looked at who the critical role players were, and we brought them onto the system. The system made use of available technology, so you had to work with your university's learning management platform. You had to work with your academic intelligence internally so you can align your systems. We then followed a project development process, designed in manageable phases or sub-processes as reflected. And we used a popular project management methodology, Agile. It allowed us to develop an iteration with specific functionalities, and as we progress to add on further functionalities or enhancements. And that works for us as you system bug fix, you can develop along the way as well. So a little bit about the design and the design thinking. Critical to the SWOT solution was applying design thinking principles and creating a design afresh. The design went through several iterations before it went from deployment to development. So we had the continuous testing and bug fixing over each sub-process. The system was quality assured in a pilot implementation in October 2022. The system offers key functionalities such as automated communication, wellness profiling, identifying the level of priority, SMS technology to ensure students receive notifications and reminders, scheduling of counseling sessions, tracking attendance, task allocation, and of course escalation. If someone does not meet the turnaround time on the SLA, it gets escalated to the line manager that there's a student queuing on the system for longer than so many hours, depending on the time level. But there's also case history, comments, and statistics for reporting. So, based on whatever the profile is, if a priority 1 and 2 case is actioned by a front desk admin to a student counselor, actions include scheduling of in-person or virtual appointments or referrals. Priority 1 cases are escalated if not responded to within 16 hours. And when we piloted to 79 students in 2022, in one day we had 13 completions, and of the 13, 11 were priority 1, and of the 11, 2 were escalated to me. So it was able to do what we wanted to do as a system. With the reporting, it provides us with critical data on where the profile is within the different domains. And as you drill down into each domain, it gives you deeper information. For example, within the academic domain, where exactly are the issues? So it allows us to do excellent reporting for key decision-making structures, where decisions are made on students' sustained registration, suspension of studies, redirection of studies. So it allows you to drill further down. So aligned to the hybrid model, I provided you with all of the interventions we offer as part of the SWOT solution. It's as I said, it goes from the academic orientation right to wellness, intervention, tracking, and then of course checking on student progress in the class because of different role players. So hybrid learning requires hybrid solutions and interventions to drive success and support the students. So we see 3 primary gains from the digital transformation of SWOT. Automation, enhancing student engagement, efficiency and timeliness identification. Analytics, using the data, real-time data and responding. And of course, integration, where both student data and actually academic data can be aligned to the university's AMS policy. AMS meaning Academic Monitoring and Support Policy. I'm going to share with you a video that is AMS in action.
Demonstration video of the SWOT solution. In this video, there will be demonstrations involving the SWOT assessment form that a student will fill out, the email notification a student gets when they have completed the SWOT assessment, as well as the next step a staff member of the team will take in order to action a student's assessment that has been flagged with various intervention priority levels that range from 1 to 4, 1 being the highest priority and 4 being the lowest. The SWOT solution has been built with the mindset of full automation. To start off the process, a student receives a unique link to their mailbox that in turn will open the SWOT assessment form in their web browser, already showing their personal information as received from their ITS application. The following is the first section of the SWOT form, labeled as Emotion. Each section has been color-coded separately to make sure the form sections are more distinguished. All the questions are mandatory fields whereby if a student does not select an answer for any given question, the form will pop up with the following error should the student try and submit it. Once a student has successfully submitted the form, they will receive an email in their mailbox confirming that their form has been submitted. When a student completes the SWOT assessment and if they answered a specific question that has a flag associated with it within the system, a case automatically gets created with all the students' relevant information. And the case object then goes into the SWOT solution workflow where it will be allocated to a student counselor. The student counselor will get a notification every time a case moves into their queue, and the front desk administrator or FDA will receive a notification to indicate a case is assigned to a specific student counselor. A student counselor can then create case items where specific actions have been taken, and it will be stored against the case history. Can also raise comments on a case item and add any additional information where they see fit. This is purely used for ease of communication. When a case is completed, a student counselor and FDA can mark the case as completed and it will be moved to the completed queue. However, if the case has not been resolved within a specific time frame, it will be allocated to an SS manager. If a student SWOT assessment form did not raise any flags, the student will simply be notified that their form has been submitted. However, no case will be created. There are 8 reports for the SWOT solution. For the SWOT All Case Responses overview, you're able to filter via campus, grouping, college, year, social or academic, undergrad or postgraduate, as well as the priority level. We can see that the following pie chart divides the different campuses into a visual representation. If we double-click on one of the portions of the pie chart, it will then show us the subdomain of that portion. If we move over to this right-hand bar chart, when we enlarge the bar chart, we're then able to see the total number count for all the subdomains in the SWOT assessments. Moving on to the 4th report, SWOT assigned cases, gives us a breakdown of the campus versus the action taken at the campus, as well as assigned to versus what campus. For the following student, Steve, we can see the case history shows that Steve's case has been assigned to the front desk manager as well as a student counselor. We can see the following actions have been taken by each individual, as well as has the case been closed by said individual. Moving over to the 5th report, biographical information, we can see a broad overview of the student's biographical information. Moving on to the next report, flagged questions report. For the purpose of this video, we're going to filter on campus. Moving on to the second last report, this is an overview flagged questions report for the SWOT solution. You can filter on campus, college, social or academic, the different priority levels. Moving on to the 8th and final report, SWOT student assessments. We are presented with 3 visual charts, one of them being a completed versus incompleted per campus pie chart, a campus count flagged by the different campuses, as well as reminders that have been sent out by the campus for the student to fill out the SWOT assessment form. The reports I have shown you in reporting dashboards are fully automated using data captured within the SWOT solution.
Thank you for the few minutes. Thank you so much. So, thank you all. I think we can take questions at the end in the interest of time. Okay, so we've got like 2 minutes for questions. 1, 2, there's 4 questions. Okay, we can start here.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. My office is working on something similar, but I'm realizing the profile, it would help a lot. So I think that step I'll definitely speak to you about. What I wanted to check, So if you're a UKZN student, do you automatically get the link, or when there's a problem, you are then sent the link? Because I'm trying to understand, do you have the profile of every student, every head, and how do you navigate that? Thank you.
It's introduced in the first year, and your profile stays until graduation. So every first year it's compulsory as part of the AMS policy to complete. This is the Senate-approved strategy for student support and success. So it stays with you, and if things change over the year as you progress to postgraduate, it stays with you. By the time you leave the university, you get a good sense of what your journey's been like. Thank you. ITS integrator. I-enabler previously. Yes. This is something that I've created for the counseling department. And I've aligned it because we're working with student data. So only staff work on this. And I've aligned it to the institutional intelligence. I've aligned it to ITS integrator. And ICS is my support. So they brought on board Highland UK who provides me with the on-base platform. So you've got to align your systems. If you want to draw, if a student punches in a student registration number, it must pull out the data, the demographics from ITS. Yeah, so that's how you align your systems. Yeah.
Congratulations again for that beautiful presentation. My question is a follow-up on the question a while ago. You said that the students will fill it out or answer it in the first year only. What about the following years? I mean,
when they're in second year, that
yes.
profile stays. You start it in your first year,
Yeah.
and it stays with you. So when you come to see me, if you don't have a problem in your first year, but if you come to our department in the second year, we pull out your profile and we see where the shift is in your holistic wellness.
I see. Let me just follow that up. The word flag was kept cropping up in the whole thing, because when you say flag, it means a student filled out a form or filled out that particular form, and he was flagged because he replied positively to a situation.
Yes.
That's why my question was, does he answer that form only in first year? What about the other years as he progresses in his studies?
So yes, it's filled in first year, and we have a profile. The flag is when you have responded to questions within each. There's 192 questions. It's a 15-minute survey. So it's a radio button. You click on a radio button, so it it keeps moving. Does very quick.
Yes.
And you pick out the qualitative data on the question other. So there's 7 other questions where you want to add if you want to. But if a student says, like I said, for example, I haven't had a meal in a week. I have no friends. I've contemplated suicide. That's a flag.
That's true.
That's a red flag priority. It's a priority. We call it flag because that's what we're working with.
Yeah.
But it's a priority 1. And then we've got to escalate so that we don't wait for the student to book. The system allows the student to book. We call the student in.
I
So
see.
that's
Okay.
by levels. We call it a service level agreement, where you have so many hours in which to intervene. Now, when that very same student comes to us in the second year, we will pick it up from the profile where the student was and what the changes were.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're
Thank
going
you
to
so
make that
much.
the last question, please. We've got
Yeah,
2 more presenters.
thank you so much for sharing your work. It's very good. I think it's really interesting. I'm interested about how you manage your data, because some of the concerns is the management of the data, privacy, for example. Were there cases that you, like for example, you encountered some issues related to data management or issues, and how did you manage? Thank you.
So the people working with the system, there are various role players. The people working with the system who have rights, viewing rights and editing rights, are registered professionals. Registered professionals like myself, are a group of clinical social workers and psychologists. They're registered, they have a professional code of conduct, they're meant to comply with ethics, and only they have rights to view and edit. So if that profile and that student had to be escalated to an academic advisor, the academic advisor can only view the academic component of it, but not view the rest of the domains. And the academic advisor can only complete the reporting on what intervention took place from an academic perspective. So only the registered professional has full access. So we have limits to rights, viewing, and editing on the system. Okay. Thank you, colleagues. We've got two. 1, 2. I'm just checking. We have 2 more presentations. Yeah, I think we drew with the same name though. We have Teboho Lekota, South Africa. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you so much. Okay, good morning, afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon. I think my system is still adjusting. So yeah, my name is Deborah Lekota from the University of Limpopo, and I am an academic development practitioner working at the student support and development unit of our university. So why this topic? Reaching students, tutors' notions on mental health and well-being of students in a rural university of South Africa. So I'm glad that I came right after Dr. Pillay because she has actually answered some of the questions that I had or recommendations. So I will tell our counseling unit to come and benchmark with your institution. And luckily we are both in South Africa. So this topic, where does it derive from? 2 years ago, we had most female and also some male students writing to us in our suggestion box. They were talking about suicide. I think some of them were having it hard. So now I am coordinating tutorship. So because of an informal setting, we suggested that tutors talk to them. And what I do, I train tutors on how to be relatable, just for easy access for students to be able to talk to them, and just to make their tutorials more calm, less formal like the formal classrooms. Just them being able to just sit in a circle and discuss concepts. So we come from a very rural institution, and we have most students that also are trying to fit in. So we saw that with this suicidal ideation, some students depend on the NSFAS, which is a funding, like a loan, student loan, that they still have to also support their families with it. And there's also Instagram pressures that we saw, that you also want to fit in as a university student to look better or to just fit in with the other students. So this is what came out. So I'm starting with the background, which mental health is a critical aspect of overall well-being, particularly for students who face unique challenges and stresses. We believe that. And also in education setting, like higher institutions, mental health issues can significantly impact academic performance, social interactions, and personal development. So due to massification, because we have lots and lots of students in our campus, some students are underprepared. They seem to be underprepared for higher learning, and some of this, because of massification, it makes academic experience or learning harder, or even for them to adjust to the institution. So this is specifically true in a rural university context, where additional factors such as isolation, some do isolate because they feel they don't fit in, and then we have limited resources. We are still growing as an institution, and also cultural beliefs. We have different cultural beliefs and also religious beliefs in our institution, and may also exacerbate mental health problems. So to aid this, our tutorship program is a critical component of ensuring that students have a positive and successful mental health and academic experience. So the aim of this study was obviously to gain insight into tutors' understanding. What do they understand as mental health? Because our tutors are senior students who are doing masters and PhDs. So just for them to explain what it is in their context or concept, and experience their attitude, their understanding, their attitude and experiences regarding mental health issues among students. And the objectives were to understand their perspectives on student mental health, and also their beliefs. What do they understand? What are their beliefs regarding the causal explanations of mental health? And also come up with interventions to cope with mental health issues. So this is the literature review regarding what tutors are and what they do in institutions of higher learning. The methodology, this research was exploratory in nature, and we did the qualitative approach, and the sampling method was purposive because we knew who we were going to, and the data collection method, it's actually 24. We had 24 tutors. It was individual semi-structured interviews with 24 tutors, and the data was analyzed thematically. So there are themes in the study. So in terms of theoretical framework, we underpin two theories, the social support and cognitive behavioral theories, whereby one, the social support underscores the importance of tutor-student relationship as a source of emotional and practical support, and also the cognitive behavioral theory, which focuses on how tutors address cognitive and emotional challenges faced by the students. So by combining the two theories, the study aims to present a strong understanding of the complexities involved in promoting mental health and well-being among students in a rural South African university by tutors. So the findings, this is one of the themes. One, understanding of mental health issues among students. So this was very deep because students are coming from different backgrounds, and also their different beliefs. So most of them were talking about others, because some students would scream in classes, and then others will think maybe they are depressed, or others will think it's just ancestral callings, or they just have they just have demonic attacks. That's how others explained it. And others would just say it's just mental illness or someone is just stressed. And others were saying it's academic pressure. So when others are screaming, others would say, no, maybe the test was just too difficult, hence maybe screaming or maybe doing those involuntary body movements that some others don't understand. And also the characteristics, inability to do well. They talked about the inability to do well in their modules, and others were being aggressive and also self-injurious. So those ones who were attempting suicide. And then others seemed confused and also some inability to care for themselves. But those with inability to care for themselves, we just realized that some were smoking, I don't know what to call nyaupe in English. Yeah, we have nyaupens. Yeah. Nyaupe is like, it's like it, like it's a mixture of everything. They just call it nyaupe. Yeah, so some who get confused or who are just maybe not yet ready to write exams, they would go through that nyaupe process. So now it causes them to be confused and also not be able to even take care of themselves, like clean. And then also the second theme, which is the beliefs about the causal explanations of mental health. They talked about supernatural factors, witchcraft, black magic. Some are saying it's the curse or generational, like bad luck in the family. Some are saying it's God will. Those who are believing in, like those with religious beliefs, talk about God's will. And others, they talked about biomedical factors, which is the heredity genetic conditions, because some students were saying that their parents have some of them were having, they call it, it's not retardation anymore, it's called challenging behaviors. What do they call it? I'm talking to that. It's not more mental retardation, they call it. Develop. Yeah, a positive way to say. Yeah. But there's another term that is used. Yes. Yeah. So some of them, the one parent would be having that, and so they'll be saying maybe it's a genetic condition. But then you wonder why would one now start having this when they passed their matric very well to enter university? And also psychosocial or environmental factors, the stresses, the abuse in the family. Some students their parents were going through divorce, and also death in the family. So yesterday when we went to a Catholic university, we heard that in that university there's a preparation of death module that they do. I'm not sure. They talked about preparation of death module that they let the students do so that they understand death should it happen. Yeah. It's just a module in the school for everyone. Yeah. And also socioeconomic factors, financial constraints, and social isolation. I talked about those students who also want to fit in. Okay. And then the third one, it's the intervention to cope with mental health. They talk about the interventions, they talked about the religious methods so that they could also be integrated into mental health in universities, and also traditional methods. And also together with a holistic approach, together with the university stakeholders, healthcare, family support, and also government support. And the recommendation, the conclusion and recommendation is to enhance resources, maybe increase funding and resources for mental health services. Also address the stigma. I think mental health, everyone is going through this. So it shouldn't be an embarrassment to talk about mental health or to say I'm not okay. I think we should normalize talking about it so that it doesn't seem like a stigma. Also, cultural sensitivity for those who believe in their traditions, maybe also incorporate those as well. And also tutor training. So imagine you're a senior student having to go through all of this stuff from students when you need to know how to also deal with maybe talking to them regarding whatever it is that they're going through. So with this, I would say this study, I think it also gives room to maybe come up with a model, a culturally explained model regarding mental health in rural institutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tiboko. Very good timing. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Comments? Okay. Thank you again. And I invite Tiboko again. Do we have another presentation? There we go. There we go. Welcome, South Africa. Is it loaded?
Fire change?
Colleagues, thank you so much. I understand that I'm standing between you and dinner, so I will try to be as brief as possible. Thank you. I won't frustrate your stomach, colleagues. I will finish. I'll be very brief. Colleagues, Daegu is my name. I'm coming from University, South Africa. I will tell you a bit about that, but just as a quick, I will be talking about the case study on advancement of and capacitation of student success and professionalization in South African universities. So just a quick background. We are, at South Africa, we've got 26 universities. We just had new universities added recently, and then we've got 50 colleges. And out of the two of them, and we're also including the private, we've got about 1.1, close to 1.1 million students across both the public and the private. At the colleges, we've got 589. And I'm giving you that stats because it's very important for the context I want to set for the presentation. And out of all those universities, we divide them into three. I won't go into that, but just to give you a picture of the higher education landscape, or what we call the PSET, post-education training in South Africa. Now, that's the map of South Africa, and that just shows you where all the universities are located within South Africa. Now, where I come from, and I think I come from Gauteng there, that small piece there, we have a very small land, but in terms of population size, we are the biggest in South Africa. I think we're about 15 million compared to other, followed by UKZN. So, but also, what you'll notice there, we have got the largest or the highest number of higher education institutes, also including the colleges. So we are also strategically positioned as an institute because we support all the higher education institutes within South Africa. So that just shows you the landscape of SA and also how the higher education are located. Our role as USAF is basically to promote sustainable and responsive universities. So we are an association of all the higher education public institutes in South Africa. Our board of directors are basically all the vice chancellors of all the institutes. You might call them presidents, you might call them whatever title, but these are your highest accounting officer in higher education. So they are our board of directors, and then we've got other structures that implement whatever the needs are in terms of the higher education institute. So our main role and mission is basically to strengthen those institutes on different platforms. And I come from one of the divisions within USAF, which we call Higher Education Learning Management. So we basically do a lot of training in terms of capacity development. We train from VC level to, staff within the institute. So most of the work is done across all the institute. We support all of them, but mainly public institutes. Now, in terms of my presentation, and I'm setting this as a context just to give you a picture of why we started the program that we started. So the National Development Plan, what we are seeing there, it's more like your vision of South Africa. When we want to see where South Africa is going, we look at the National Development Plan. And one thing that you get inside there is the aim or the 2030 vision is to ensure that we increase enrollment by 2030 to 1.6 million students in terms of enrollment. When you look at the progression so far, at about the report in 2021, we were sitting at slightly just below 1.1 million. So in terms of progress, we are actually seeing that by 2030, we'll have already reached the target in terms of enrollment, which is a good thing, which speaks to access, because you understand the history in apartheid, access was very low. I mean, if I were to give you a picture of how we are doing in higher education, you will see there that, the target, we're already at 1.3 if we take both the private and the public, and you can see the target is 1.6. We're not too far. The major issue is actually on the TVET. The TVET are only at 589, but the target is here at 2.5. So we're likely not going to reach that particular target. So those are the things that our government is monitoring on annual basis in terms of, are we really working towards meeting the KPI or the target of enrollment to increase access? The population, I think at this point, we are at about 61 million population size. And South Africa as a population, we're actually a younger population. There are more people 39 downwards. So we're a very young population. So access is very important to us. So when you look now in terms of enrollment changes, blacks are more in South Africa than race is a big issue. So when you look at the enrollment around 1990, when the stats was collected, blacks in terms of access were about 82%. That has changed, gradually, but now we're already at about 68%. More like a reflection of the population sizes. We're going there, not where we want to be, but at least you can see that there is a progress in terms of access, particularly of those who were previously disadvantaged into accessing higher education. Now, what this actually has resulted into, and I'm building this just to show you why our program becomes important. There's been concerted effort by the higher education institutes in terms of trying to make sure that they focus on redress. Redress basically is to say, we want those learners who were previously deprived of education to be given access. So there is a redress, equity issues, access to those learners, making sure they've got money, they're supported within the institute. There's been a drive towards that. But also what you see, there's also been a drive towards equity. When we look at access, are we also giving access to learners who were previously disadvantaged into the institute? Because spaces are limited. Currently at South Africa, not every learner who finishes matric have an opportunity to go to varsity. Not that they don't qualify, there's a space issue. So those issues are also taken care of when we speak about equity. I put a question mark there because what we have done, while we focus on equity of access, we have not done much in terms of equity of outcome. Our throughputs are still very low. That's the big issue. That is why at the moment, student success is one of the biggest focus in SA. We want to make sure that the student succeeds. So the throughput, I don't even have throughput there. I'm here, I want to paint a good picture. So throughput is not where we want it to be. There's a larger number of F10s. F10s are first entering students. These are students who finish matric, went directly into the university. No gap year, directly into the university. We call them the F10s. There are a lot of them who come to higher education unprepared. Because majority of them, if you think of equity, they come from poor background in terms of education. Majority of them, they've never seen computers. Majority of them, they come from a first generation learners. These are learners where nobody in the family has ever went to the university. So the support structure behind is not there. So these students are the ones that come into our institute. So the people who have been presenting before, most of them, they speak about this kind of learners that we are supporting. When we see all these efforts, we are trying to support this particular learners, which means this require a holistic student support model in order to be able to support them. You need finance, student affairs, you need all the stakeholders to be active in order to ensure that these students are supported. In America, they've got a slogan where they say, no student is left behind. Every student can succeed if they are supported. So we have also, based on Tinto and all these other researchers, adopted those particular statements in SA to make sure that every student that enter our system will ensure that they succeed academically. Now, I think the good thing about this whole 2030 vision is that the government has not left us behind. They've come on board and they also provided funding in order to ensure that we can be able to support the students. And what we have seen in the past years, they provided funding which led to a lot of initiatives aimed at promoting student success. One of them has been the use of data analytics, what you saw my colleague presenting. Data analytics is a big thing now in institute. We need to track our students. The time they enter into the system, we want to know their profile. Who are they? Where are they coming from? That helps us to identify and understand the level of support they need. So most of the funding is actually targeted in institutes that want to develop data analytics system. The biggest issue that we have in SA, we don't have a lot of data analytics, so people who qualify. Even though who are there, they're in private institutes, we can't afford them and all that. There are a lot of, some of the challenges that we face. But the other thing, first year experience programs, there are a lot of them that are coming out in the country, and they are mainly based at supporting the student. I just gave you that profile. The other thing, academic support. One of the emerging student support system is what we call student advising. Why? There are few psychologists. To become a psychologist is a long process. Not everybody becomes a psychologist. And we have a shortage of them actually in the system, from basic education to higher education. So we've introduced what we call student advising. There are other institutes that are running with that. But the majority of them, they are not psychologists. So we need them in the system. They capacitate and build capacity within the institute in order to provide support to the students. I'm mentioning that because they are part of the people that we train on our program. Mentorship program, these are one of the programs that are emerging because of this particular funding. So based on all these challenges that I've just said before you, the VCs that are part of the USAF, they also decided to say we need to have some form of a focus area within USAF. And Student Success Collaborative Forum was initiated as a program within USAF in order to look at initiative that speaks to that, which is an office that I'm here and I'm representing that is within USAF. What you see there are the pillars that it focuses on, which I won't go into. What I want to focus on today is our flagship program, which we call the SAS program, Student Affairs and Student Success Program. Now this program, I'm the program manager for the program. The program leader is actually my colleague, Birgit Skriber, the one who was speaking before. Brilliant, our president. So she is the project leader for this, and I give all the credit to her because most of the work came before I even joined the USAF. What has happened with this program? It's a program that is aimed at development of, at promoting student success within higher education, but also it was based not only on what the VCs wanted, but we also conducted a national survey with all the practitioners across the country, and we wanted to find out a program like this, if it will be accepted within the higher education, and 362 of them responded, and they gave us feedback on that. I'm going to push due to time, and this was piloted last year with 50 practitioners across all the higher education institutes. I said we've got 26, which means it's 2 practitioners per institute who were part of the program, trained to be student support practitioners over a 6-month period. And this ended with a colloquium where they presented presentation that speaks to work within student affairs. Now that's just some of the objectives that we try to achieve with the program. I won't go into that. And these are the people that actually form part of that. These are the people that we trained, where they come from. All of them, they are within student affairs, academic support, administration, different fields within student support. And these are the lessons that we got from there. First lesson, we realized that student support issues are actually common across the country. So there's actually a lot we can learn from each other. We sit in platforms like this. There are other programs nationally where we try to learn from each other about what we can do to support our students. The other thing is that there's a need for a program like ours. There are other programs, but I think we have sort of a unique placing within the institute. We're the only, I think, or one of the few that focus on development of practitioners. There are no program that speaks to that. There are others that develop other people, but not on this particular focus. There are also something that we noticed and noted nationally was that although there are initiatives within the institute, there's also some form of, there's a gap, there's a siloed approach in the way that they do their things within the institute, and you end up having lack of coordination within the activities. We go to activities of student affairs, student success, but you always find different people. The people whom you started with or who are there, others don't know about them within the institute, and that creates silos, that create this disjointed process within the institute. But also, we realize that the mental health of student support practitioners, I think it's an area that is going to emerge as the area of a high need. They give a lot, they provide a lot, but they never get support themselves in order to be able to support the student. In conclusion, I'm wrapping. So the SAS program, it was piloted last year. This year we're continuing with it. We're releasing a call, I think, in a month's time. But fortunately, we managed to partner with the Higher Education Institute. We're going to certify it. So which means people are going to qualify now, be certified as student support practitioners. The reason for that is because, there are many people who follow student support. I mean, you have seen now, I spoke about student advising. I think the flexibility of career pathing within our institute internally has allowed many people to be in this field who have not been trained within the field. So the professionalization of them is one of the key things that is going to help us in making sure that they're equipped with all that they need to know for this particular process. But also, we are targeting that we are going to expand it to at least target 300 participants within a period of by 2027. But also we're looking at expanding it. I showed you the TVET college, there's a big need, and we really want to go there also in the space and provide support. And obviously, we can't leave the SADC region, which are also other African countries within the continent that we want to reach to. Colleagues, let me end there and thank you.
Thank you, Teboho. I think that was motoring. What we say, motoring. You're motoring along. That's what we say in South Africa, is motoring along. But thank you so much. Colleagues, we've come to the last presentation. May I check if there are any questions, comments? Over to you.
Okay, thanks for the presentation. I think we've been talking a lot about the professional development once the individuals are in the profession, and continuously so. I'm just very worried about growing the timber, because there's no academic pathway where you start off as a first year to say, I'm going to work in student affairs. I just want to maybe put it out there to the colleague to say, can we think of also those ways of professionalizing, making it possible for young people to already aspire to be in the field, or even just mapping out a kind of an academic pathway of growing that timber in the field, as opposed to waiting for somebody who's an academic and then retiring into student affairs or student success work, but rather we embed it as a growth path. Yep.
Yeah, look, I think you are raising a very important question or comment there. Look, it's a big thing, and I think we've not started to engage more about that. And I think this is just one seed into that process, because I mean, if you look at SA, I think recently we've started to put more effort in developing the new cohort of professorship, because we can see that, I mean, most of them are getting out of the system. But I think what we're ignoring now is how do we develop practitioners to hold position that speaks to student deans, student affairs executives, and all that. That's an area that I think we've ignored, but I think it speaks to that, professionalizing this particular field.
Thank you. And I want to make two comments. We had the pleasure of being a part of the initial content development for the SAS program. And I think you make a valid point about the career pathing within student affairs and being a discipline on its own, and so that we don't bring all the retired academics into student affairs. They don't understand what student affairs is about. And we also wonder about the turnover within student affairs at the level of leadership. And you ask yourself why? Because when it gets too hot in that space, you actually can't cope. But when you understand students and the student experience, I think you have a better journey in student affairs. But bear that in mind. Thank you. Thank you so much. Colleagues, we've come to the end of the session. That was our last presenter. Birgit reminded you about scanning the QR code to evaluate the sessions. So somebody's going to have to put it up for me, the QR code. Yep.
Here's a QR code if folks can just scan it and give their evaluation. Thank you so much to everyone, including our technical team.
Colleagues, apart from the QR code, I have some goodies, but the South Africans are surely not getting them. So if you need this, you can get one. These are manuals for student affairs. If you need it, thank you.